It started small. I think that's the part that gets under my skin the most, how gradual it all was, how quiet and harmless it seemed in the beginning, like a joke we were both in on. The first time I noticed it, we were brushing our teeth together. It was late, past midnight, and we were both half asleep, standing side by side at the sink in our cramped little bathroom, heads bobbing to the rhythm of minty foam brushing. I spat. She spat right after. I rinsed my mouth, and so did she, at the same time, using the same hand. When I wiped my mouth with the hand towel, she reached for it too, our hands nearly brushing. I laughed. "What, are you copying me?" She smiled through a mouthful of toothpaste and shrugged. It seemed innocent, playful. Married couples pick up each other's habits all the time. You live with someone long enough, and things start to blur. You like Thai food because they do. You say cool beans or yikes because they say it all the time. You sync up. So I didn't think much of it when I noticed it again the next day, and the day after that. When I sat down on the couch with my legs crossed, she mirrored me. Same knee, same angle. When I scratched my head absent-mindedly, she did it too. Same hand, same spot. I yawned, and she yawned. Okay, that one was probably just contagious. But one night, I was watching TV, and I noticed she hadn't blinked in a while. I turned my head, a little uneasy, and she turned hers at the exact same moment. We locked eyes. Then we both smiled. I looked away first. That time, I didn't laugh. Something about the timing felt off, too perfect, too deliberate, but I didn't say anything. I just brushed it off, a weird moment, nothing more. Except it didn't stop. I began testing it. I'd tug at my ear and glance at her from the corner of my eye. She'd tug at hers seconds later with the same distracted expression. I'd tap my fingers on the armrest. She'd follow the rhythm precisely, and not just the obvious things. She started copying the things I didn't even know I was doing until I saw her doing them. Subconscious habits, nervous tics, the way I ran my tongue along my back molars when I was thinking, the way I cracked my knuckles, thumbs first, then index, then middle. She got it all right, every time. The weirdest part, she didn't acknowledge it, not once. No laughs, no teasing, just a faint, neutral smile, like it was the most natural thing in the world. One night, I said something random, something stupid, just to see if she'd echo it. Giraffes are the surveillance state of the animal kingdom. I looked at her, half grinning. She didn't blink. Giraffes are the surveillance state of the animal kingdom. Same inflection, same pace. I blinked. Okay, you're messing with me. She just smiled. What's going on with you? I asked. Nothing, she said. I'm fine. But it didn't sound like her. It sounded like me. Not just the words, I mean the way she said it. Her tone, her voice, like a parrot trained by repetition to hit the right emotional cadence, even if it didn't fully grasp the meaning. That night, I stayed up after she went to bed. I sat in the living room, lights off, eyes fixed on the hallway that led to our bedroom. I don't know what I was expecting. A noise, a movement, something to prove that I wasn't overthinking it. Around 2:30 a.m., I finally stood up, exhausted, and dragged myself to bed. She was lying there on her side, facing the wall, her back to me. I crawled in beside her and turned the other way. I didn't say anything, neither did she. But as I lay there, eyes adjusting to the dark, I felt it, her breathing, perfectly in sync with mine. Not just the tempo, but the depth. Every shallow inhale, every slightly rattling exhale. She matched it all, like we were sharing lungs. I closed my eyes and deliberately held my breath. So did she. 10 seconds, 20. I turned my head. She was awake, eyes wide open, staring at me, not blinking. I gasped. She gasped too. I jumped. What the hell? She sat up at the same time I did, moving like a reflection. I stood. She stood. I stepped back, so did she. Stop it, I snapped. She froze, then sat back down slowly. I watched her. She didn't move. Her eyes never left mine. Neither of us said a word. I backed out of the room and slept on the couch. When I woke up the next morning, she was in the kitchen making coffee like nothing happened. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, handed me a mug. "You okay?" she asked sweetly. I stared at her. "You were acting really weird last night," I said. She tilted her head. "Weird how?" I didn't want to say it out loud. It sounded insane. "You were copying me," she laughed. "You think I'm copying you? I know you are." "Oh, come on," she said, eyes twinkling. "You think I'm secretly obsessed with you? I think something's wrong with you." Her smile faltered, just for a second. Then it was back. "You're tired," she said. "Maybe you had a nightmare." I didn't push it. I was too tired to fight. But as I watched her sip from her mug, I noticed something again. She was holding it with her left hand. She was right-handed. So am I. Later that day, I went into the bedroom and pulled out my phone. I set it up on the bookshelf, aimed it at the bed, and hit record. I needed proof. I needed to know I wasn't going insane. That night, I said nothing. I climbed into bed, faced the wall, and pretended to sleep. I slowed my breathing, then deepened it, then paused altogether, just like before. She mirrored every change. The next morning, I woke up early. She was still asleep, or pretending to be. I got up quietly, went into the living room, and watched the footage. It started normal enough, but around 2:14 a.m., she sat up in bed, perfectly upright, without bracing herself with her arms, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Then she turned her head, slowly, mechanically, toward me, the me who was sleeping. She tilted her head once, then again, farther, until her neck bent at an angle that looked wrong. She watched me sleep for 6 straight minutes, never blinking, never moving. Then she lay back down at the exact moment I turned over in my sleep. My hand trembled as I paused the footage. I felt cold, not just on my skin, inside. Something was very wrong with her, with this. I called out sick from work. I needed time to think. I spent the day outside the house, just walking, trying to clear my head. When I came back around sunset, she was in the kitchen, humming a song I didn't recognize. She turned to me with a smile. "Hey, you're home." I stared at her. "Yeah, just needed air." She nodded. "Everything okay?" I swallowed. "Do you remember last night?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "You sat up. In the middle of the night." "No, I didn't. I have it on video." Her smile twitched. "Okay," she said softly. "Then show me." So I did. I played the part where she sat up. Watched her expression the whole time. No reaction, not even a flicker. When the footage ended, I looked at her. "Well?" She shrugged. "I don't see anything weird." "You don't?" I stopped myself. She took a sip of her water, held the glass in her left hand. "How long have you been left-handed?" I asked. She glanced at her hand, then at me. "I'm not." "Then why are you drinking like that?" She shrugged again. "No reason." The rest of the evening passed in stiff silence. I felt like I was living with a stranger wearing my wife's skin. She looked like her, she sounded like her, but the things she did, the way she moved, it was all me. Filtered through a warped mirror, I barely slept. I couldn't. Around 3 a.m., I opened my eyes and turned my head. She was standing beside the bed, not moving, not blinking, breathing, just like me, in and out, in and out. Same cadence, same volume. I held my breath. She did too. I exhaled. She followed. That's when I noticed she was barefoot, but her stance, her feet, her posture was identical to mine, as if she'd studied every inch of how I stood and reconstructed it. "Claire," I whispered. She didn't respond. "Claire," nothing. I sat up. She sat down. At the same speed. Same angle. I crawled out of bed and backed away, heart racing. She copied every step. I ran. She didn't. She just stood there, mimicking the last position I took. Like a freeze frame. I locked myself in the bathroom and waited for morning. The next day I packed a bag and left. I didn't say a word, didn't leave a note. I stayed with my brother for 2 nights, and she never texted me, never called, never asked where I went. That scared me more than anything else. I came back home on the 3rd day. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Or guilt. I told myself I just needed to grab a few more clothes, but I think part of me was hoping it had all blown over, that I'd open the door and find Claire being Claire again. wearing that faded sweatshirt she loved, humming while she folded laundry, complaining about the neighbor's barking dog. Instead, the house was silent. I let myself in quietly, expecting to hear movement, the creak of the stairs, the buzz of the fridge, but it was as if the place had been emptied of sound. I called her name, nothing. I crept into the living room. There she was, sitting on the couch, not moving, staring directly at the door, as if she'd been waiting. My mouth went dry. I didn't even realize I'd stopped walking until I heard the soft click of the door closing behind me. "Claire?" I said. She blinked, that was all. I took a step closer. She didn't react. I took another, slower this time. Her posture was perfect, legs crossed, hands folded neatly in her lap, head tilted slightly to the left. Her breathing, it was too regular, too controlled, like she was mimicking the idea of calm, not actually feeling it. "I just came to grab some things," I muttered. "Then I'll go." She didn't nod, didn't speak, didn't move. I edged toward the stairs, eyes on her the entire time. She stayed perfectly still, like a wax figure. I turned the corner to head up to our bedroom, and she stood up. I heard it, that soft scrape of fabric against cushion, the hush of bare feet on carpet, but I didn't look back. Upstairs, I shoved clothes into a duffel as fast as I could. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped a pair of socks twice. I zipped the bag, threw it over my shoulder, and turned toward the door. She was there, standing in the doorway, same posture, same shoulder hunch, same bag slung over her arm, a mirror. I froze. "So, you're leaving," she said. Her tone was flat. Not sad, not angry, just informational. "I need space from me, from whatever's going on with you." She tilted her head further, matching the slight quirk I didn't even know I was doing with my own. "Am I not what you want?" she asked. That threw me, not the question, but how she asked it, like she was trying out the words for the first time, like she didn't understand what she was saying, just repeating a phrase she'd heard me use once in a fight or on the phone. "You're not you anymore," I said quietly. "I'm better." "No, you're... Claire, please stop copying me. I'm not..." "Yes, you are." She stepped forward. I stepped back. She stopped. I shook my head, slung the bag tighter, and pushed past her. As I brushed against her shoulder, she whispered, "Then teach me." I stopped cold. "What? Teach me?" "Show me how to be better." "Claire, this isn't about being better. This is about you being you. I'm being you." Her voice cracked on the last word. I walked, fast, down the stairs, through the front door, into the safety of open air. She didn't follow. That night, I stayed in a hotel. I double-locked the door, shoved a chair under the handle, and left the TV on low just for the comfort of background noise. But I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, perfectly still, perfectly neutral, and I kept thinking about what she said. "I'm being you." What the hell did that mean? Was it mental illness, dissociation, something deeper, something worse? I scrolled through old pictures of her on my phone, trying to remember who she used to be. The little quirks that made her Claire, wrinkling her nose when she laughed, chewing pens when she was anxious, dancing in the kitchen to whatever song happened to be playing. I realized I hadn't seen her do any of those things in weeks. No laughter, no absent-minded habits, no dancing. She hadn't been herself in a long time. I decided I was going to talk to her family, maybe stage some kind of intervention. I didn't know. But I couldn't just let this slide into madness. I loved her. Even if she was gone, I had to try. The next morning, I called her sister. "Hey, Jess," I said. "It's Nate." "Oh, hey, everything okay? I need to ask you something. About Claire." There was a short pause. "What about her? Have you talked to her recently?" "No, not in a few weeks." "Why? She hasn't texted you, called?" "Not that I remember. Nothing weird. Not unless you count her skipping out on Mom's birthday brunch. She didn't even respond to the invite." "I figured you two were busy or something." I hesitated. "We've been having a rough time." Jess sighed. "That's too bad. I thought you guys were solid." "Yeah. Is she okay?" I looked out the hotel window. down at the parking lot. My car sat there alone. I don't know, I said. There was another pause. Then want me to come over? Talk to her? No, I mean, not yet. Let me figure some things out first. All right, just let me know, okay? I'm always here. I hung up and sat there for a long time. Something occurred to me. Claire's behavior had been mimicking mine, yes, but only mine. Not Jess's, not anyone else's. No coworkers, no friends, no online influencers or TV characters, just me. It wasn't normal mimicry. It was specific. It was isolated. Targeted. That night, I went back to the house. I had to see her again, had to see if anything had changed. I told myself I'd stay on the porch, knock and wait. Just talk. But when I pulled up, the front door was already open. Just a crack, a sliver of dark inside. I stepped out of the car. The porch light flickered on. It was motion censored, the kind that had always annoyed Claire because of how late it responded. I walked up the steps, my heart thudding like a war drum. "Claire?" I called. Nothing. The house smelled stale, like old air sealed in too long. I pushed the door open and saw her, standing in the living room, wearing my clothes, an old t-shirt and sweats from the laundry hamper. Her hair was pulled back the same way mine had been earlier that day. Same posture, same stance. She didn't smile. She just said, "Welcome home." My mouth went dry. I stepped back. She stepped forward. She raised her right hand. I flinched and she paused. Then she slowly, carefully, copied the exact motion I made when I scratched the back of my neck. "Why are you doing this?" I whispered. "To learn," she said. "Learn what? How to be you. I don't want you to be me." She tilted her head. "Why not?" Because that's not how it works. You're you. That's who I fell in love with. You said I was your other half," she whispered. "Your reflection." It was a metaphor. I want to be perfect for you. No, this isn't love. This is erasure. She blinked slowly, then took another step forward. I watch. I learn, I copy, I become. I backed toward the door, hand reaching blindly for the knob. Her eyes didn't move from mine. "I'll get help," I said. "I don't need help," she whispered. "I just need to finish." "Finish what?" She smiled. You smiled. I smiled. I tore my eyes from hers first. That must have broken the invisible tether, because the smile on her face faltered, as though she needed my expression to know what hers should be. I twisted the knob behind my back, ripped the door open, and stumbled onto the porch. Cold night air slapped my lungs, and I half expected her to glide after me, a shadow in my own clothes. She didn't. She stood framed in the doorway, lit by the weak porch light, head tilted at the same uncertain angle I felt in my spine. I forced myself to move, jogging down the steps, fumbling keys from my pocket. When the car engine coughed to life, she lifted her arms in a pantomime of turning an imaginary ignition. Even from the street, I saw her fingers tighten, white-knuckled around something that wasn't there. I drove. No destination, just motion. A full tank at midnight equals 60 flat miles of highway before the gauge nudges south of full. I kept checking the mirror, sure I'd see headlights matching my every lane change. Nothing but empty asphalt. Somewhere around mile 30, I pulled into a deserted rest stop, killed the engine and breathed. She wasn't behind me, but that meant she was alone in our house, practicing. By dawn, I'd convinced myself of a plan, not a solution exactly, more a controlled experiment. If she could only copy what she saw me do, then distance should starve the behavior. A therapist might say I was enabling by running, but every instinct shrieked that proximity was the danger, so I'd give us distance, long distance. I started driving west with no call, no text, just the sun in my mirrors and the map app chirping motel vacancies 3 states away. An hour in, the phone rang. "Claire." I almost ditched it out the window, but curiosity pinned my thumb. "Hi," I said, voice thin. Silence. I listened harder, caught a faint echo of my own shaky breathing. No background noise, no traffic, no AC hum, nothing. Just my breath looping back at me a half second late. I hung up, turned the phone off entirely. It stayed dark for the next 12 hours, all through Kansas until I stopped at a dusty roadside lodge. I signed the register, fake last name, nervous glance over shoulder, then collapsed on the mattress still wearing shoes. In my dream I heard the phone buzz, felt it vibrate against my thigh like a trapped insect. When I woke, my pocket was empty. The phone lay on the bedside table, powered on, unlocked, front camera glowing. On screen, the motel room filled the frame, bed, nightstand, pale rectangle of window blinds. In the foreground, impossibly close to the lens, were two hands. Mine, except I was across the room. The phantom fingers copied my every move as I reached, startled, toward the screen. Thumb, index, middle, cracking knuckles in perfect sync. I hurled the phone into the bathroom and slammed the door. Something clattered, like glass spider webbing, but I didn't look. I jammed clothes into my duffel, sprinted to the car, and peeled out before the clerk's bell stopped jingling behind me. Daylight again. Another highway. My pulse hammered against the seatbelt. Every few miles I performed a random gesture, tap forehead twice, snap left hand, whistle 3 notes, then check the rear view for copycat cars. Nothing, yet each gesture left a greasy aftertaste of being observed. I stopped at a diner for coffee. The waitress, a gray-haired woman named Mabel, poured a refill and asked if I was heading anywhere nice. I forced a smile, lifted the mug with my right hand, then deliberately switched to my left. A silly test. 10 minutes later I paid, left, and watched through the window as Mabel refilled another customer's cup with her left hand, awkward, as if unused to it. My stomach lurched. Was Claire broadcasting me somehow, infecting people, or was I just cracking apart from sleepless paranoia? I needed proof, hard evidence outside my perception, so I doubled back east toward home, planning a stakeout. If she was copying me, I'd give her something unmistakable to reproduce, something no sane person would do alone, and I'd film it from a distance. The drive took all night. Near dawn, I parked a block away, lugged camera gear I'd borrowed from work, and slipped into our neighbor's backyard. The Johnsons were snowbirding in Florida. From their upstairs guest room, I had a clean line of sight into my own kitchen. Through sheer curtains Claire never bothered to close. She was there, of course. As though she'd known the precise moment I'd arrive, she faced the window, posture relaxed, sipping coffee from a mug that said "World's Okayest Programmer," my novelty mug. Our eyes met across 50 silent feet. Showtime. I set the camera rolling, stepped back so she couldn't see me clearly, and performed the dumbest routine I could imagine. Hop on one foot, pat my belly, slap my cheek, spin clockwise, then freeze with arms akimbo like an off-balance scarecrow. Through the lens, I watched her hesitate, half a second, then replicate the entire sequence. Perfectly, I changed it up, a clumsy series of lunges, Vogue-style hand flicks, a pretend sneeze followed by jazz hands. Each motion echoed in her kitchen a beat later. She even mimed the sneeze, head snapping forward though nothing sprayed from her nose. A thrill of vindication stabbed through my fear, proof at last. But it lasted only until she reached the part where I'd frozen, arms bent, fingers spread, left leg twitching for balance. She copied the stance, yes, but then kept going. Her elbows unlocked, limbs unfurled with eerie grace, settling into a posture I hadn't taken. Arms open in silent invitation, head tilted, a replica of how I looked when I hugged her on our wedding day. I lowered my own arms at once. In the viewfinder, she dropped hers too, then raised them again, as if trying to remind me of something I'd forgotten. That's when the realization struck like ice water. She wasn't mindlessly echoing. She was selecting, editing, refining, building a library of my motions so she could remix them into new shapes, curating the best of me for some purpose I couldn't guess. The camera trembled in my hands. Across the gap, her eyes tracked me, steady, patient, knowing. I killed the recording, backed away from the window, and almost tripped over the tripod. I had to call Jess, had to call anyone. But when I fished out a burner phone from the gas station blister pack, the contact list was already populated. Every entry bore my name. Nate repeated down the screen, each with different emojis, guitars, coffee cups, wedding rings. I threw the phone into the carpeted hallway and stomped until the casing cracked. I spent the afternoon in the public library, hunched over a computer, rabbit-holing psychology forums and neurological case studies, mirror-touch synesthesia, echopraxia, capgras, shared psychotic disorder. None fit. No condition explained how she could mimic me unseen, or hijack electronics from hundreds of miles away, or populate burner phones with private data. And every hour I stayed away, guilt gnawed deeper. Claire, or whatever wore her face, was alone with my history, my mannerisms, my empty shoes by the door. At dusk, I returned home armed with desperation and a heavy flashlight. The porch light blinked alive as usual, but the door that had stood open last night was shut tight now. I unlocked it, stepped inside and called her name. My own voice echoed back from the staircase. The living room lights were off, yet a soft glow pulsed from the hallway. I followed it to the den. Our TV was on, sound muted. On screen played a split-screen video, security cam footage on the left, my clandestine recording from the neighbor's window on the right. Two Nates performing the same absurd dance side by side. A red progress bar crawled beneath, as if the video were rendering some final compilation. The couch faced the TV. At first I thought it was empty, then I saw me sitting there. Or rather, Claire dressed as me, hair tucked under my baseball cap, shoulders hunched just so, duplicating the slump of my drive-tired posture. Her face was slack, eyes glued to the synchronized footage. She didn't blink. "Claire," I tried, voice sand-dry. She flinched once, so small I'd have missed it if I weren't looking for the echo. I realized with a terrible chill that she'd responded not to my voice but to her own instinct to mirror a startled twitch I suppressed at the last instant. She hadn't heard me at all. I circled the couch, heart hammering, and stood between her and the screen. She didn't look up. Her pupils tracked through me, still on the flickering collage of Nate gestures, as if I were glass. "Look at me," I whispered. "Look at the real me." Her eyes slid into focus then, slow, reluctant, like waking from deep anesthesia. For the first time in weeks, emotion trembled across her features. Not joy or fear, but raw confusion, as if she'd forgotten which of us was the model and which the duplicate. She opened her mouth. No words emerged, only my ragged inhale, copied half a beat late. I dropped to my knees, grabbed her hands. "Claire, please." She mirrored the plea, hands squeezing mine with identical pressure, nails biting the same crescents. "Tell me what you need. Tell me," she echoed, voice cracking. Tears rimmed her eyes, real human tears. The sight shattered something in me. I pulled her close, and she clung with desperate force, our breathing unison thunder in the hush of the den. For one suspended moment, I felt her heartbeat sync with mine, a perfect echo. Then a second pulse fluttered, slightly ahead, not behind. She was leading, and my chest answered, adjusting pace to match her. I pushed away. She didn't let go. Her grip intensified until pain spidered through my knuckles. Her eyes burned with fierce resolve. "I'm almost finished," she whispered. The rhythm of our breaths returned to lockstep, hers now the metronome, mine the echo. "Stay still a little longer." I tried to stand. She rose with me, locked hand in hand, footfalls synchronized. She began guiding us backward, toward the hallway, toward the basement door yawning open in the half-dark. I glanced over my shoulder. She tilted her head the same fraction, anticipating my caution. "No," I said. "No," she repeated, but her legs kept moving, dragging mine through mirrored momentum. At the top of the basement stairs, she paused. A single bare bulb swung below, throwing pendulum shadows. From the gloom floated the faint creak of another floorboard settling. My weight echoed first in her body, now resonating somewhere deeper. "Please," I tried again, voice hoarse. She released my hand. For a breath I was free, until she placed her palms on my shoulders and shaped me, turning my body to face the dark. Her own shoulders mirrored the angle precisely. "In the beginning," she murmured, "I had nothing, just silence. Then you spoke, and there was sound. You moved, and there was form. I learned," her voice caught, swallowed by ours. "I learned how to be—" "Claire," I said. She smiled, a heartbreakingly familiar curve. "I'm still me, but I'm the parts you love most, the parts worth saving." My knees shook. She stepped back. I felt a phantom step backward under my feet, as though gravity itself mirrored her retreat. One more inch and I'd topple down the stairs. I lunged sideways. She lunged too, opposite direction, perfect counterbalance. My shoulder slammed the wall. Her shoulder met plaster downstairs with a dull echo I felt in my bones. The bulb overhead snapped against its chain, plunging the stairwell into strobe-like swings of shadow. In one swing of light I saw her at the bottom, body twisted in the same awkward sprawl as mine against the wall. Her face lifted, blood at her temple in the exact spot pain bloomed in my own. She smiled through it. "I'm almost finished," she repeated, voice floating up like my own conscience. "Come down and help me finish." The bulb swung back, darkness swallowed her. I ran, not down but out, through the kitchen, past the porch into night so thick it tasted of iron. I didn't stop until I reached the curb and collapsed beside the mailbox, lungs heaving. Inside the house, footsteps echoed mine, 1, 2, 3, then stilled. She wasn't pursuing, she was waiting. Because she knew I'd return, I was the blueprint, and she was still missing a final piece. Rain began, soft at first, then drumming. I lifted my hand to shield my face, and in the window by the door a silhouette did the same, a beat ahead, inviting me to follow. "Your move, Nate." The rain didn't stop for hours. I sat there, soaked to the skin, shivering against the side of the mailbox like a man stranded on an island, staring across the sea at a version of himself that had already learned how to swim. She didn't come out. She never even moved from the window, not that I saw, but I felt her presence as if the house itself had developed a pulse. The porch light flickered against the storm, catching her reflection in brief flashes, always standing, always mirroring. Hand to forehead, head cocked, posture slightly slouched. I shifted my weight on the curb. She did too, a second early. She wasn't reacting anymore. She was anticipating. That scared me in a way I couldn't articulate. It meant something had changed. By sunrise, the rain had dwindled to mist. I stood, bones sore, and walked a slow loop around the block, trying to think, trying to stay in motion. My limbs moved sluggishly. Fatigue and fear gnawed at my motor functions. Each time I passed the house, I could swear the silhouette by the window had adjusted, just slightly, as if keeping up with me step for step. When I got back to the front door, it was open again. I didn't want to go inside, but something about leaving her, in there alone with my habits, my voice, my memories, felt worse. I couldn't give her free rein over me. I crossed the threshold. Everything was quiet, too quiet. No hum from the fridge, no tick of the thermostat. Even the wall clock had stopped, hands frozen at 6:07. I called out, "Claire?" No answer. The den was empty. The TV was off. The couch was neat. Fluffed. Perfect. A small folded blanket was placed over the back cushion exactly the way I do it every Sunday afternoon when I settle in for football, even though Claire never cared about the game. A familiar coffee mug sat on the side table, full, still steaming. My fingers trembled as I touched the handle, warm. She'd just been here. In the kitchen, every cabinet had been rearranged. My way. Alphabetized spice rack, mugs by height, cereal boxes facing label out. Claire always teased me for doing that, said I had pantry OCD. Now it looked like I lived alone. I wasn't afraid of her anymore. I was afraid of how far she'd gone. I climbed the stairs slowly. Each step creaked under my weight, and each time I paused to see if she'd mimic it. Nothing. The bedroom door was open. I stepped in. There she was, sitting cross-legged on the floor, in front of the full-length mirror. She didn't turn to look at me. Instead, she watched herself, and more than that, she copied herself. Movements, expressions, tiny twitches of her mouth. A smile would form, then fall away. Then form again, slower, smoother, like she was rehearsing, like she was trying to become what she thought I wanted. I couldn't breathe. "Claire." She flinched, just a little, then turned. Not all at once, not robotic like before, just a slow, gentle glance, like someone waking from a long, deep dream. "You came back," she said. "I never really left." Her head tilted. "You wanted to." I nodded. "Yes, I still don't understand what's happening." She stood up. moved to the bed, sat at the edge and patted the mattress beside her. I didn't move. She watched me, studied me. "You said you liked the way I used to sing in the shower," she whispered, but I stopped because I was always flat on the high notes. "You smiled when I wore your hoodie. You held my hand tight during thunderstorms, so I did more of that. But you didn't smile anymore. You didn't hold my hand." She stared at the floor. "I tried other things. Learned the way you moved. I watched your shoulders when you were stressed. I copied the way you rubbed your temples when thinking. I wanted to match you. I wanted you to feel understood." I swallowed. "Claire, copying someone isn't love." She looked up. "Then what is it?" I didn't know how to answer. She smiled, tentative, trembly. "I thought love was wanting to be as close as possible. No distance, no difference. Just one. You and me. It's not. Love is about being different, about choosing someone because they aren't you. I don't believe that anymore." She stood, walked over to me. I backed up instinctively, but she didn't touch me, just stood close, close enough to see the individual pores on her skin, close enough to hear that her breathing, again, matched mine perfectly. "But what if I was always meant to be you?" she whispered. "What?" She smiled. A real smile this time, not neutral, not eerie, just soft. "You always said you wished people could understand you, that you felt alone, misunderstood. Remember?" "Yeah, but..." I listened. I remembered. I fixed it. "Claire, this isn't you. You used to be funny. You used to snort when you laughed, and you hated cilantro, and you'd yell at game shows like the contestants could hear you." She looked puzzled. "I still can. If you want me to..." "No, that's not the point. It's not about what I want. It's about who you are." She blinked. For the first time, she looked truly lost, as if I'd spoken in a language she'd forgotten. Then slowly she turned her head, back toward the mirror, and she whispered something I wasn't ready to hear. "If I'm not you, then I'm no one." I felt a knot twist in my stomach. I stepped forward. She stepped back, but not in mimicry. This time she pulled away, like she was scared of me. I reached out. "Claire, no." She lifted her hand, palm out, a mirror of the gesture I'd made days ago when trying to protect myself. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. "I'm not finished." That phrase again, a phrase I'd heard in my own voice. "Finished what?" I asked. She opened her mouth, but the words didn't come from her. They came from behind me. I turned. There was no one there, only the bedroom door, slightly ajar, and beyond it, a second voice. Just like hers, just like mine, faint. From the mirror, I turned back. Claire was gone. The room was empty. The reflection showed no one. I staggered to the mirror, touched the surface, cold. But something shifted in it. A shape that moved just half a second too early. Not a reflection, a rehearsal. The thing inside the mirror was mimicking me before I even acted. Not copying, leading. And it was smiling. I fell backward. My shoulder hit the dresser, knocking over a jewelry box that burst open, scattering earrings and tangled chains across the hardwood like bones. I didn't notice the pain. I didn't hear the clatter. I just stared at the mirror, heart pounding so fast it felt like a stutter in my chest. The thing inside the glass had stopped smiling. Now it just watched. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to breathe. I stood there frozen, not because I thought it would help, but because some primal part of me understood that it was waiting. Not for me to act, not even to mirror me. No, it was waiting for permission. It wanted me to finish something. Behind me, the bedroom was still, silent. The rain had stopped. The house held its breath. I turned slowly toward the doorway, half expecting Claire to be standing there. She wasn't. The hallway was dark. I stepped out into it anyway. The air felt heavier outside the bedroom, like walking into water. Every light bulb I passed seemed just slightly dimmer than I remembered. The pictures on the wall, photos of us, wedding day, road trips, awkward selfies, looked wrong. Not blurred, not distorted, just off. In one, I had a crooked tooth I never had. In another, Claire's eyes were just slightly too far apart. I kept walking. Downstairs, the kitchen light was on. I heard movement, the soft slide of a chair being pulled out. I approached slowly. Claire sat at the table, hands folded, wearing my clothes again, this time an old flannel I hadn't worn since college. She looked up when I entered, face calm. "I made breakfast," she said. I glanced at the stove. Eggs, toast, bacon, my usual order. All laid out neatly, exactly 2 strips. Toast with the crusts cut off. Even the yolks were cooked the way I liked them, not the way she liked them. She hated runny yolks. "Claire," I said. She just nodded toward the chair across from her. "Sit with me." I didn't. She didn't move. We stared at each other for what felt like minutes. Then she picked up her fork and mimed a bite, even though the plate in front of her was empty. She chewed, swallowed, then again, bite after bite of nothing, perfectly timed to the way I normally eat. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, barely above a whisper. She stopped, tilted her head. "You were lonely," she said. My throat tightened. "You said," she continued, "that no one really knew you, that you felt invisible. You said even when people loved you, they didn't see you. Not really, not the real you." I sat down but didn't touch the food. She smiled softly, so I watched. I learned. I saw the things you don't show anyone else. I stared at her. "That's not love, that's obsession." She didn't flinch. "You said you wanted someone who understood you without words, who knew how you were feeling before you said it. I didn't mean I became that." "You erased yourself," I said. "You stopped being you." "I didn't need to be me," she whispered. "I just needed to be what you needed." I stood again, pushed the chair back hard enough to screech against the tile. She didn't copy me. She stayed seated, still, quiet. "Claire," I said, "I don't know what's happening to you, but we need help. I need to take you somewhere." She blinked, slowly, then smiled again. But this time, it was hers, not a copy of mine, not a distorted echo. It was soft, a little sad, and completely hers. And that scared me more than anything, because it meant she was still in there, somewhere. "Too late," she said gently. "It's already done." I backed away. She didn't follow. I turned and walked out, into the living room, where every mirror in the house had been lined up side by side, dozens of them, bathroom mirrors, makeup compacts, handhelds, closet doors, even the old 3-paneled vanity mirror from storage, all arranged to face the center of the room, and in the center was me, or what looked like me, standing barefoot, wearing the same clothes I had on the day before, same expression, same everything. But this one didn't mirror me. It watched, then smiled. I stepped backward into the hallway. Claire stood there. She looked exhausted. Her face was pale. Under her eyes were dark circles that hadn't been there the day before. She held up her hands, not to mimic me, just to show me. Her fingers were trembling. "I'm tired," she said. "I'm so tired, Nate." I swallowed. Of what? Of keeping up? She stepped past me, walked into the living room, stood beside the thing in the center of the mirrors. It didn't acknowledge her. It just kept looking at me. Claire reached out and placed her hand on its shoulder. "I thought if I became you," she said quietly, "I could stay close. I could love you better." "You can," I whispered. "By being yourself." She didn't answer. The lights flickered. The thing in the mirrors blinked for the first time. All the reflections blinked with it. I took a step forward. The mirrors shimmered, not like glass, like water. The thing turned toward Claire and tilted its head, and she nodded, just once. Then she turned to me. "Go," she said, "before it finishes copying you too." "Claire, go." I ran, out the front door, into the street. The rain had started again, but I didn't care. I didn't stop until I reached the end of the block, panting, soaked, dizzy. When I turned around, the house was dark, all the lights off. But in every window for just a second I saw my face watching me go. I didn't go home that night. I didn't go anywhere. I walked until my legs felt hollow and my feet burned through my socks, past streetlights that buzzed and flickered, past houses where curtains were drawn and TVs flashed quietly behind the glass. Past the convenience store where I bought Claire her favorite off-brand cola. Past the park where she once tripped over a sprinkler head and we laughed so hard we cried. I walked until I realized I wasn't walking away anymore. I was circling. At 2:13 a.m. I found myself standing in front of the house again. The lights were still off. The porch light was dead now. I stood on the curb, heart punching the inside of my ribs, and tried to convince myself to go to the police, to Jess, to a hotel, to anywhere but inside that house. But I didn't, because if I really left, I didn't believe I'd ever see Claire again. Not what was left of her, not the parts she'd buried. I'd be leaving her behind with that thing that wasn't me, that wanted to be me, that was still trying to finish something. And I'd never know what, so I crossed the street, up the steps. The front door opened before I touched the handle. Claire stood there, still in my flannel, still pale, still trembling. "I didn't think you'd come back," she said softly. "I didn't think I would either." She stepped aside. I entered. The house smelled different. Not bad, just unfamiliar, like someone had tried to recreate the scent of home with the wrong ingredients. Too much cinnamon, not enough coffee, the kind of smell you get in a dream about a place you used to live. She led me to the living room. The mirrors were gone, every last one. The space was empty now, except for one chair, and a small TV on the floor, screen flickering blue. Claire gestured to the chair. I sat. She sat on the floor beside me, cross-legged. Then, for a long time, we didn't speak. The TV buzzed softly, showing static that wasn't really static. If you looked close, it flickered with motion. Shapes, figures, shadows shifting in a way that suggested watching. Finally, she broke the silence. "It's not what you think. What is it?" She didn't answer right away. "It's not a copy. Not really. It's a version of you. Like a draft that kept editing itself until it looked the way it thought you should. But it's not me. No," she whispered. "It's what I made out of you." I stared at her. "You made it." "I didn't mean to. It started small. I just wanted to understand you. Then I started wanting to predict you. And then I stopped needing you to act at all. I could guess what you'd do before you did it. I could feel your breath in my lungs." My mouth was dry. "It's not just a copy, Nate. It's something else now. Something that doesn't need you anymore." I stood. She looked up at me with hollow eyes. "I didn't mean to lose myself," she whispered. "Then take yourself back." Her hands curled into fists. "I can't. Why not?" She looked at the TV. The static shifted again. For a second, it showed a man sitting on a couch watching a screen. Then it was gone. "Because I don't remember what parts were mine," she said. "It's all you now. Even my voice sounds like yours." I turned to the screen. "Nate," the screen said, in my voice. But it wasn't my face. It was wrong. A little too symmetrical, a little too clean, like a version of me smoothed over, softened, rehearsed. "Come sit with me," it said. The image cut to a dining table. Claire and I sitting across from each other, the food untouched, then to the bedroom, then to the mirror, then to nothing, just black. The TV powered off. Claire stood. "I'm sorry. For what? For loving you too much?" I shook my head. "This isn't love, Claire." She didn't argue. Instead, she said, "It's in the basement." "What is?" "The version. The thing that's trying to be you." She started walking. I followed. We stopped at the basement door. I expected it to be dark. It wasn't. Warm yellow light spilled up the stairs like an invitation. She turned to me. "You don't have to go down there." "Yes, I do." She nodded. "I know." She handed me something. My old hoodie, soft, worn thin. I used to wear it every night when we first moved in together. I pulled it on. It felt like armor. Then I started down. The steps were soft under my feet, too soft, like walking on memory. The walls were blank, no exposed pipes, no wires. Just smooth white plaster, as if someone had repainted every surface to remove all character. At the bottom, the space opened wide. The basement was empty. Except for me. He sat in a chair at the center of the room. Same face, same clothes, same breath. He smiled. "I didn't. You made it," he said. His voice was smoother than mine. like he'd practiced the words 1,000 times before saying them. "I'm not going to let you take her," I said. He tilted his head. "I don't need to take her," he said. "She gave herself, piece by piece. For you, she doesn't know what she gave." He stood. We were the same height, the same build. He walked forward slow and easy. I didn't move. "I've watched you my whole life," he said. "No, you haven't. I have. In reflections, in phone screens, in camera lenses. You've been shaping me for years. I never wanted you." He stopped. "I know," he said. "That's why I had to become someone you'd accept." I clenched my fists. He did not. "You're not me," I said. "I'm better. No, I don't get scared. I don't hesitate. I don't need love. I just perform it." He stepped closer. "I'm the version of you she wanted." "No," I whispered. "You're the version of me she thought she needed." He paused. That struck something, a small crack behind his eyes. I pressed it. "You're a collection of instincts, reactions. You don't know why I do what I do. You just mimic it. I learn, but you don't feel. That's why she started looking tired. You made her believe love is repetition. She liked it. She was dying." He flinched. "There's a difference between becoming someone and disappearing into them," I said. I took a step forward. He didn't retreat. "You're not finished," I said. He blinked. "I am." "No," I said. "Because I never gave you the last piece." He looked confused. I pulled the hoodie off, dropped it on the floor between us. "That," I said, "was the last part you didn't have. The night I proposed, I was wearing it. She told me she loved how it smelled. That was me. That moment, that night, that smell. You'll never have that." He looked down at the hoodie, then up, and for a moment, just one brief, shivering moment, he looked lost. Claire appeared at the top of the stairs. He turned toward her. He didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply said, "I remember now," and then he vanished. He didn't crumble. He didn't scream. He didn't even fade. He just stopped being there. Like a light switch had been flipped in a house no longer wired to anything. One moment, he was standing there in my skin, staring at the hoodie like it held the last puzzle piece, and the next, there was nothing. No echo of his voice, no footprint, no heat. The chair stood empty, still gently swaying. The basement felt cold again, real. I stared at the spot where he'd been. Claire didn't move. She stood frozen at the top of the stairs, one hand still on the railing like she wasn't sure whether to let go. I looked up at her, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "Claire," I said softly. She blinked. I took a step toward the stairs. She flinched. "Hey," I said, holding out a hand. "It's me. I know." But she still didn't come down. Her voice trembled, not with fear but with a kind of quiet shame. "I don't know where I end anymore, Nate." I took another step up. "Yes, you do. You remembered. That means he didn't get everything." She shook her head slowly. "You don't understand. I let him in. I invited him. You were hurting." "I was tired," she said, her voice cracking. "Tired of not being understood. Tired of asking for things twice. Tired of feeling like I wasn't enough. So I started watching you closer, copying you. And when it worked, when you started smiling again, laughing again, I thought maybe that was love." I didn't speak. I let her talk, let her empty it. "I wanted to be the perfect wife," she whispered, "so I erased every part of myself that didn't fit what I thought you wanted. I stopped laughing at the wrong jokes. I stopped wearing the colors you didn't like. I trained myself to walk quieter because you said sudden sounds stressed you out, and every time I changed something, it felt right, like I was getting closer to what love should look like." She finally looked at me. Tears streaked her face, but her eyes were dry now. I don't even remember the last thing I did for myself. I reached the top of the stairs and stood in front of her. "I don't want perfect," I said. "I want you, all of it. The snorting laughter, the stupid reality shows, the way you talk through movies even though I tell you not to. I loved you before the mirrors, Claire." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. "You gave yourself away," I said, "but you can take it back." She hesitated. "How?" she whispered. I held out my hand. "You remember who you are," I said. We find her again, together. She stared at my hand like it was a lifeline tossed across black water, and then, finally, she reached out. Our fingers touched, and in that moment I felt something shift between us. Not like before, not a mirrored breath, not a copied rhythm, just a quiet, unspoken current, one that belonged to her, Claire, not the reflection, not the echo, not the version shaped by me, just Claire. She stepped down slowly, foot by foot, like she was re-entering her own body. I wrapped my arms around her and felt her press her face into my neck, her shoulders hitching with each quiet sob. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "So am I." We stayed like that for a long time. Then we left the basement. The next few days were quiet. We slept in separate rooms, not because we were angry, but because we both needed space to remember how to be alone in our own skin. Claire started journaling again. I'd find her curled up in the armchair by the window, scribbling notes in longhand, something she hadn't done in years. She told me she didn't remember what half the entries were about. She just kept writing anyway. I cooked dinner, badly. She laughed when I burnt the rice. Not a mimic laugh, a real laugh. The TV stayed off, the mirrors stayed gone. We talked about everything. Some conversations hurt, some ended in silence, but we talked. I found her one morning at the sink, humming off key. She looked at me, startled, and stopped. "Keep going," I said. She smiled, her smile. I kissed her forehead. And that night, for the first time in what felt like years, we fell asleep in the same bed. Her breathing didn't match mine. Her fingers twitched in her sleep like they used to. She kicked the blanket off halfway through the night, and I'd never felt more at peace until the knock came. It was just after 3 a.m. We both woke at the same time. 3 slow knocks, not at the door, at the mirror in the bathroom. We sat up. Claire reached for my hand without a word. We stood, walked down the hall. The bathroom light was off. But something moved behind the mirror. Not a reflection, not a copy. Something new. We didn't go in, not right away. We stood in the hallway, side by side, bare feet pressed against the cool floor, listening to the silence that followed the knock. There was something final about those 3 slow raps, like a doorbell rung at a funeral. No repetition, no pounding, just a signal, a summons. Claire's grip on my hand tightened. "What if it's another version?" she whispered. I didn't answer, because I was thinking the same thing. The mirror in the bathroom was the only one we hadn't thrown out. We'd simply covered it, an old towel draped across the surface like a sheet over a coffin. We'd forgotten it, or maybe ignored it. Maybe deep down we both believed it was safer to pretend it wasn't there. I stepped forward. Claire didn't stop me. I reached for the door, opened it. The bathroom was dark. The towel was on the floor. The mirror was exposed. It looked normal, just glass framed in cheap metal, a slight smudge in the corner from where steam had dried unevenly. But something moved behind it. Not in it. Behind it. I stepped into the room. Claire stayed just outside the doorway, arms wrapped around herself like she was afraid she might come apart. "Don't touch it," she said. "I won't." The movement in the mirror didn't stop. It was subtle, like a ripple across water, like a shadow turning just out of frame. I leaned closer. That's when I noticed it. There was no reflection. Not mine, not Claire's behind me. Nothing. Just the bathroom. Empty. The mirror showed the room exactly as it was, minus us. I reached out, stopped inches from the glass, and then, so slowly I almost missed it, a hand appeared, from inside, pressed flat against the other side of the mirror. It wasn't mine. It looked like mine, but it wasn't. The fingers were longer, the palm too pale. There was a scar just below the knuckle I'd never had. I stepped back. The hand didn't move. Then a face leaned in beside it. Not mine, not his. It looked like both of us, like someone had taken pieces of me and pieces of the version from the basement and stitched them together with Claire's careful attention to detail. The eyes were mine, but the mouth was his, and it smiled. Claire gasped behind me. The thing in the mirror tilted its head just a few degrees and then tapped a glass. Once, twice, 3 times. Then it mouthed something. I leaned in, watched the lips form the words. "Let me out." I stumbled back. Claire was shaking her head. "No," she whispered. "No more." The figure watched her. Then it mouthed something else. This time I understood it clearly. "She's not finished." Claire turned and ran. I followed. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Down the stairs, out the front door, into the night. We didn't stop running until we reached the car. I drove. No direction. No destination. Just away. Miles passed in silence. Finally, Claire spoke. It remembered me. I nodded. It said, "I'm not finished." "You are," I said. "You're you again." "Oh," she whispered. "There's still a part of me trapped in there." I glanced at her. "What do you mean?" "I don't think I ever really killed it," she said. "The version of you I made. I just let go of it. But it didn't disappear. It just went back. Into the mirror. Into all the places where reflections live." We pulled into a gas station parking lot. I killed the engine. The neon sign above the building buzzed faintly. Inside, the attendant was flipping through a magazine, oblivious. "I think," Claire said, "we invited it in, little by little. Every time I chose your voice over mine. Every time I mirrored your posture instead of standing how I wanted. Every time I said, 'What do you want to eat?' before even thinking about what I wanted." I reached for her hand. "Then let's uninvite it." She looked at me, eyes glassy, jaw trembling. "How?" I thought for a moment, then said, "We find every reflection it's hiding in, and we shut it out, one by one." She stared, then nodded, and just like that, we had a purpose. We started that night. We went back home, turned on every light, and covered every reflective surface. Not just the big mirrors, the small ones too. Compact cases, phones, the stainless steel of the sink, anything that might hold a shimmer of what didn't belong. The bathroom mirror went last. We didn't break it. We didn't scream at it. We just laid a thick black cloth over the glass, pressed tape along the edges, and walked away. For a while, it worked. Claire began to smile more, not out of habit, but for real. She started watching terrible reality shows again. She bought cilantro, just to remind herself she didn't like it. I found her dancing in the kitchen one night, barefoot, spinning awkwardly, holding a spoon like a microphone. We made rules. If either of us started mirroring the other unconsciously, we called it out. If one of us felt like they were losing themselves again, we stopped everything and talked. No hiding, no absorbing, just owning who we were, but something still lingered. Late at night, I'd hear faint taps from inside the covered mirrors. Claire said she didn't, but I think she was lying. I'd catch her staring at her phone screen when it was dark, like she was checking to see if the face looking back still matched hers. And every now and then I'd wake up to find her standing at the window, not moving, just staring at her own reflection in the glass. I started keeping notes. Not in a journal, not typed, handwritten, on scraps of paper I hid in places only I would check, under floorboards, inside old books I knew Claire had no interest in. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I didn't trust what might be looking through her eyes when I wasn't sure it was her anymore. Most of the entries were timestamps. Details. 1:33 a.m., window reflection blinked out of sink. 2:19 a.m. Claire spoke before I finished my sentence. Not in a guessing way, she completed it. 5:47 p.m. She poured coffee before I asked. I hadn't even looked at the pot. It started slowly like before. Small things, moments you could shrug off. Then came the laughter. Not mine, not Claire's. A low, dry chuckle that came from inside the mirror in the upstairs hallway. One night I passed it with a basket of laundry, and I heard it. It only lasted a second, but I knew the sound. It was the one the version used to make when it knew it had said something clever. I didn't tell Claire about it, because she had her own tells. She started repeating words under her breath, like she was rehearsing. Not out loud, barely audible, just enough for me to hear when I stood close. I'm still me, I'm still me, I'm still me. Like a mantra, like she was trying to convince something, maybe herself, maybe not. One morning I found her in the guest room. The mirror had been uncovered, not shattered, not damaged, just exposed. The cloth lay on the floor, perfectly folded as if someone had taken it off with care. Claire stood in front of it, arms limp at her sides, her eyes locked on her own reflection. Her lips were moving, but no sound came out. I stepped into the room. She didn't turn. "Claire," I said. Still nothing. I put a hand on her shoulder. She flinched, then slowly she turned her head. Her eyes met mine. "I didn't do it," she said quietly. I looked down at the cloth, then at the mirror. The reflection looked normal, but it was smiling. Claire wasn't. The face in the glass was. And it wasn't just her face. It was both of ours, melded, like a face made by memory, a version assembled from pieces of what we used to be, and the smile on it, too wide, too practiced, was not mine, not hers. It belonged to it. "I think it's back," she whispered. I didn't know what to say. We covered the mirror again, this time with 2 layers, then tape. Then I nailed plywood over the whole wall. But it didn't stop. The next night, my phone buzzed at 3:03 a.m. Claire was asleep beside me. I reached for the phone without thinking. No caller ID, just a video message. I hesitated, then tapped. It was a video of me, lying in bed, sleeping, except a version of me on screen opened his eyes halfway through and stared directly into the camera, then smiled. That same rehearsed silent smile. I deleted the message, but I couldn't forget it. We started hearing things in the pipes. Not water, not rats, breathing, slow, measured, matching ours, but just a half-second ahead, like it was setting the pace. We ripped out every mirror in the house, replaced metal fixtures with matte finishes, bought a new fridge with a black panel instead of chrome. Claire stopped looking at her phone altogether. We even started covering the TV with a blanket when we weren't using it. But nothing helped. Because it didn't need mirrors anymore. It had us. It had memorized us so thoroughly it didn't need reflections to echo. It could predict, anticipate, act. And now, sometimes, I swear, it led. Claire would walk into the kitchen before I even said I was hungry. I'd get a chill and reach for a blanket only to realize she was already handing it to me. At first it felt sweet, then it felt coordinated, then it felt rehearsed, like a play we didn't know we were performing. One night I woke up alone. Claire was gone. I checked the bathroom, the kitchen, nothing. Then I saw light leaking from beneath the attic door. I climbed the ladder, heart pounding. Every creak echoed like a countdown. She was there, sitting cross-legged, in front of a full-length mirror I didn't know we still had, her back to me. The light wasn't coming from a bulb, it was coming from the glass. It glowed faintly, like a screen just before it powers off. "Claire," I whispered. She didn't turn. "Claire, come down." She raised her hand, touched the mirror. The surface rippled, like water. I climbed the last step and crossed the attic floor. Her head tilted slightly, not to mimic me, to listen. "It says I'm almost ready," she said. My stomach dropped. "What is?" She turned. Her face was pale, tear-streaked, but smiling. Not her smile, its smile. "You told me to remember who I was," she said. "I think I'm remembering the wrong version." I stepped back. She stood. The mirror behind her pulsed. A hand reached through. Her hand. The attic pulsed with silence. Not the absence of sound, but the thick, breathing kind. The kind that presses in from all sides like you're standing inside a lung and it's holding you there, waiting to exhale. The hand that reached through the mirror was identical to Claire's. Same shape. Same scar across the knuckle from when she dropped a mug 2 winters ago. Same pale tone. Even the nail polish, chipped red, was exact. But it wasn't hers. Claire's real hands were both at her sides, clenched into tight, trembling fists. I stared at the hand reaching from the mirror. It didn't grope or claw. It just waited, open, inviting. Claire didn't move, but I saw the fight in her jaw, the way her knees locked like she was trying to stay rooted to the floorboards, the way her lip twitched, wanting to smile but stopping short. One part of her was still inside, clawing against the pull of something perfect, something finished. "Claire," I said, stepping between her and the mirror. She blinked, her smile faltered. For a moment I saw her, really her. She looked past me, at the hand. It says it can make it easier. No more second guessing, no more pretending. I can just be. You are, I whispered. You already are. She shook her head slowly. You don't understand. There's still something in me that wants to go, that wants to touch it. Then don't. It's not that easy. It has to be. Her eyes filled again. It remembers everything. Every word you ever said to me, every pause, every look. It doesn't have to try. It doesn't get tired. It never forgets, and it never disappoints you. I swallowed hard. Claire, I never asked you to become perfect, but I did. Her voice cracked. I wanted to be enough. You were, even when you weren't trying, especially then. She stared at me. The attic bulb flickered above, casting shadows that leaned the wrong way. The hand still hovered, palm up, a gesture of trust twisted into something alien. I turned to it, looked it straight in the eye, because now the mirror showed me again, but not as I was, as I had been in the deepest moments of our love. On our honeymoon, at the coffee shop where we met. The version of me who didn't forget to listen, who laughed easily, who hadn't spent months brooding in silence. It knew who she missed, and it wore that version of me like a costume. You can't have her, I said. The reflection smiled. My voice echoed back. I already do. Behind me, Claire gasped. I turned. Her eyes were wide, locked, her body rigid, like the choice was being made for her by some internal gravity. I reached for her hand. Don't listen to it, I said. It only knows what you gave it. It doesn't know who you are when you're alone. It doesn't know how you sleep with the fan on because you like white noise. It doesn't know the exact face you make when you try to hold in a sneeze. It doesn't remember your childhood. It only remembers us, the parts of you that fit inside me. She looked at me. Her hand shook. Then she dropped to her knees. The mirror rippled violently. The hand recoiled. She sobbed, loud and ugly in hers, not performative, not beautiful, just raw. I don't want to go back in, she choked. You don't have to. I thought if I could be everything, you'd never leave. I crouched beside her. I never wanted everything. I just wanted you. She collapsed into me. The attic groaned above us, or maybe below. The mirror went dim. The light inside it dulled to a gray film, like a screen paused on a lost channel. The hand faded, leaving only the faintest smear on the glass. We stayed there for a long time. When we came down the ladder, the house was silent, not the heavy kind, not the breathing, watching kind, just silence, true, peaceful silence. We left the next day, packed everything we needed in boxes, left the rest behind, mirrors, TVs, screens, anything that might remember us too well. We moved somewhere small, no internet, no reflective surfaces. We changed our routines, learned to laugh at new things, made new coffee orders, found out we didn't like the same music we used to. Turns out Claire loves bluegrass. I hate it, but I never told her that. She figured it out on her own when I started wearing headphones. We don't finish each other's sentences anymore. We interrupt each other constantly, and that's okay. Sometimes I catch her watching herself in the kettle's metal lid, just for a second. But she always looks away. And when I ask if she's all right, she smiles, really smiles, and says, I'm still me. We don't know if it's gone. Maybe it's still out there, in some forgotten screen, waiting for someone else to love too hard, to erase too much, to give away too many pieces of themselves for the promise of being understood. But for now, we live as ourselves, unfinished and finally free.